Hello, I'm Adam Shanks. I'm the Ag and Natural Resources Extension Educator for Purdue Extension in Clinton County.
Hi, I'm Ed Farris. I'm the Purdue Extension Ag and Natural Resources Educator in Huntington County.
And today we're going to talk about the components of a written marketing plan. So Ed, why do you think it would be important to have a written marketing plan?
Well, Adam, it's really a proactive instead of a reactive thing that you would be attempting by completing that plan. And it's not going to be great when you first start, but it is something personal that you spend a lot of time with and work through. And it is something that really shows that you've studied the possible options that are available and tools in marketing.
That's right. So we're going to look through some components and some concepts today of a written marketing plan. So in general, some important concepts to have about a marketing plan is that it helps manage the emotional job of crop marketing. If you've watched some of our previous videos, we've talked about always wanting to have the highest price and the emotional toll that goes along with, actually making the decision to make a sale. There's some regret, and there's potentially some regret if the marketing or the price changes and goes up after you've made that decision. There's a fear of pulling the trigger to make the sale. So having this written marketing plan really helps manage the emotion that goes into crop marketing. Obviously, the plan should be developed ahead of implementation. This isn't something you want to build as you go. You don't want to build the bridge as you're crossing it. You want to build this ahead of time. And use it as a roadmap when you're doing your grain marketing. The plan should be simple and personal. So what works for Ed when he's marketing grain may not work for me. Ed's going to have different risks than I'm going to have. Ed's going to have different needs financially to meet than I'm going to have. So everything should be personal and simple, because if it's too complex, it can be hard for you to follow. So keep it simple. Manage the risk should be based on the goal of the plan. So looking at your risk, what you can handle, those kind of things are what you definitely want to look at as a goal for your plan. And like Ed said, this is definitely a proactive strategy, not reactive. We talked about you don't want to build the bridge as you're crossing it. This is something that should be done ahead of time, looking ahead, using some of the tools that we're going to talk about, and not a reactive situation. So things to consider, you want to look, every farm's different. You want to make sure you look at how many bushels you're going to have to sell. Historically, what has your farm produced? How many bushels are you going to have? You don't want to oversell, you don't want to undersell, so you need to know an average of what your farm historically produces. Break-even costs. So again, my break-even costs might be different than Ed's, probably are going to be different than Ed's. If I bought a new tractor, has Ed bought a new pickup truck? We need to make sure that our costs, are put into place where we know what it's going to take to cover those. Our cash flow needs, that looks at kind of that same, builds off the break-even costs, but our cash flow needs, do I have to feed my family of 5? What's Ed got to take care of to meet his cash flow needs? Cost of production is a huge one. Right now we're very volatile with our costs. When we're recording this, nitrogen prices are high, our herbicide prices are high. All of our inputs are really volatile right now. So we want to make sure, that we take that into consideration when we're writing our marketing plan. Financial goals. Ed, what would be some of your financial goals maybe as you're putting your marketing plan together?
Yeah, you would think about your solvency, what's my net worth, and what risk can I really take based on my equity in my operation is one of the longer term goals. And then also just thinking about what your profitability goals are. How can I, what's my working capital needs to keep going every year? That's really a critical thing, is just thinking about what is it going to take to keep going every year, and just having those in mind, and using the tool that we've mentioned, the Purdue Crop Cost and Return Guide is a very good tool to help think about what steps I need to take and what's my benchmark costs and where I need to be at as far as what price that I can really obtain to move forward in my marketing plan.
Yeah, and personally, my financial goals, I would like to be able to put some money away to purchase some more land. I like to make sure that I'm always liquid. So anything that I take a loan out on, or anything that I purchase, I want to make sure that I'm liquid. That's one of my financial goals personally. So those are things you need to keep in mind when you're putting together this tool. And I put a link on here. This is a link to the Purdue crop budget spreadsheet. That's a great tool to use. You can look at 3 different crops. You can look at full season. You can look at adding double crop soybeans into wheat, and look at how you can budget those, those different scenarios. And then look at also the crop cost and return guide that Ed mentioned. That looks at all these, and it was updated just here last month. So it's got some of these new volatile prices, and that's a great way to look at what some of these things are going to actually cost, so that you can put those into your budget spreadsheet and use those to make your plan going forward. And I put the link there at the bottom. You can get on the Center for Commercial Ag, and that is super easy to find those 2 tools right there. Here's a demonstration or an example. This is the updated 2022 Crop Cost and Return Guide, hot off the press. So this was just done this last month. This was put together, and it's got the new pricing on here. So if you look, there's 3 different sections based on your soil productivity. There's low productivity soil, average, and high. And you can just work right down the line there, looking at your expected yields, looking at your costs, the harvest price. And so this is a great snapshot. Now this isn't the Bible. You don't want to take this as an everyday thing, but definitely is a good benchmark and a good starting point, when you're putting your plan
Correct.
together.
It does change. We've seen it updated a few times here already this year as we're preparing for the 2022 growing season. So
yep, it's definitely it's a good starting point, but it definitely is it's ever changing. So some other considerations that you want to take into when you're putting your marketing plan together is your price and time objectives. So how long, what are you looking at? When do you need to sell your grain? When do you need to get it off the farm? What price do you need to sell it at? And that takes into consideration your storage capacity. How many bushels can you store? Can you dry the grain on your farm? There's a consideration there for when you need to be able to move that grain based on your storage capacity. Insurance coverage, you mentioned that in our last video, about what kind of insurance needs you need for banks and loan applications. What you want to see there to help cover risk.
That's going to be different for each producer as far as what level of and what type of crop insurance, but that's something that should be considered when you write your marketing plan.
Absolutely. And then your capacity for personal risk. Ed might be more apt to take more risk on than I am. Maybe I don't want to, I'm scared to really put myself out there, where Ed might be more willing to, take that longer hedge or make that longer decision farther out. So, just that capacity of what you're comfortable with is a consideration you need to make when you're putting this plan together. And then some steps to take. You need to utilize realistic price targets. In another video we talked about, we want to have, it's our goal, we always want to have that golden highest price, but that's generally not realistic. Very seldom do you actually get to hit the high. So make sure you have a realistic price target based on covering your needs to cover your financial obligations and make the profit that you're desiring. And have periodic price targets and quantities that you want to sell. So you say, I want to make sure I'm hitting those higher markets, or we're looking at some different tools. We need to make sure we have some bushels in those areas that we want to get rid of. So making sure you're tracking that as you put your plan together. And then some tools to use. We've looked at the crop basis tool. There's a link there that's on the Center for Commercial Ag. That tracks the basis. In a previous video we talked about that's the difference between the board price and your local cash price. And you want that, a strong basis is a narrow gap between those two prices. So that's a strong basis. And you want to track, if you get on the Center for Commercial Ag, you can track that basis over the last several years at the local elevator and find those target points where you might want to look at doing some marketing. And then the WASD report, that's from the USDA. That link's on there to look at historical pricing as well. So these are just some tools that you can use to help put that marketing plan together. Have patience and be open to reevaluating. So this is a fluid document. This is, like I said, you want to have it done proactively, but it needs to be fluid. You need to be able to look at it. Maybe this worked, maybe this didn't. I need to change this. Obviously the volatility of our inputs in our markets right now, you're going to have to be able to adjust your marketing plan. Put it in writing. Anybody can think about what I want to do. Here's what I have. Here's what I'm planning on doing. Put that in writing. That way you've got something you can remember. You can go back and look. Say, yep, I did this. Yep, I did this. No, I need to do this. And then have someone hold you accountable for it.
Right. I think it's important to have somebody that you really trust. If you have a really good relationship with your lender, that might be a person to have look at this, or any type of financial advisor, just somebody that's going to hold you accountable and say, why did you make that call? Was that really the right decision? To go back and look through what you've done in the past as compared to what your plan is. So.
Yeah, and then that emotional part comes back into that too. You don't like to be told you're wrong, but you've got to understand they're trying to help you,
right?
And help make this a better operation. So having them hold you accountable for what you put on paper and what your plan is will make you better at your plan and at your operation going forward. Some potential mistakes that you might make. There's that emotional thing that we've kind of been a theme here. We want to make sure that you keep the emotion out of it. You're looking at strong numbers based on what you can handle, your risk, what your production is, looking at the historical marketing points. Make sure that you're taking the emotion out of this, and it's a business decision. Anchoring, loss aversion and a regret. We don't want to be upset that we sold when the next day the market goes up. Be happy that you made the sale. It's going to cover the costs. It's going to make the money that you planned on it making, and don't worry about what happened the next day. But you can also celebrate if it goes down 10 cents the next day.
Exactly. So, right.
Those are the wins that you look forward to. But
yes.
The fallacy of small numbers, overconfidence, and hindsight bias. So we've kind of covered all of these. The hindsight, you don't be regretful, but and overconfidence, don't be too bullish on everything. Just kind of make strategic decisions as you go along. So that's what we have today on developing a marketing plan. Here are some resources that we used. You're welcome to look at these and make sure you take advantage of what's out there. The Purdue Center for Commercial Ag is a great tool, great resource with lots of tools, lots of Excel tools. You can put your own numbers in, your real-time data, and track things and help out with making those decisions. So any final thoughts, Ed?
No, I think that, like I said, really it's important to start, if you haven't put it in writing, to go ahead and get it in writing, because that's a great way to make that first step.
Yep, helps get you planning to build the bridge, and then hold you accountable when you're ready to cross it, right? So with that, we thank you very much.